Welcome back to Inside Sources today as we continue our conversation on the future of a great country. I have with me a returning guest, a lawyer, newspaper columnist, a former Labour Party presidential candidate spokesperson, who has been very active out there and doing new things. I'd like to welcome back to Inside Sources, Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo.
Thank you very much. Thank you, viewers, for joining us.
All right, it's good to see you again.
It's my pleasure.
Especially with all the things that are going on. You know, we're going to get to it, but let me just open this conversation this way to say that in another 2 months, it will be 2 years that we have a new president. You know, in what direction do you think this country is going based on what has happened in almost 2 years? Ken?
We are not in a good place, and we're not heading towards a good place. We have a government that has the audacity to take decisions, but has the audacity to take wrong decisions. We have a government that President Obasanjo just described as wasteful and corrupt. And one thing you can't take away from Obasanjo is that he gives you the facts. A government that is borrowing almost 15 trillion naira to service the debt, that's $10 billion, has the guts to award one contract, road contract, in the sum of 15 trillion naira, in which his family has interest. That is almost as the cost of what we are borrowing in a year to complete the money you need for your project. Look at a government with that 15 trillion naira, for instance, that is your deficit. From nowhere, you had an additional revenue of 5-point-something trillion, which you did not plan for when you submitted your budget.
Yeah.
A government that is interested in the future of the next generation should have been thinking about saving that. Because when you're preparing a budget, you're preparing how to achieve the budget. They have not fulfilled up to 50% of 2024 budget. And then they have planned out the 2025 budget. And from nowhere, you got an additional revenue of 5-point-something trillion. If you had borrowed 15 trillion, why didn't you use that as saving so that you will be cushioning the effect of the debt you are borrowing? Now, what did they do? They shared it. Because that's what this government has been doing. And you're giving 1 trillion naira to Solid Minerals, which had 9 billion naira as budget. Meaning the Solid Mineral Ministry has prepared to use the 9 billion naira for the year. So its capacity, its manpower has been tailored towards using 9 billion naira. Then you escalated them, 1 trillion. By management principles, they would not have the facility to accommodate, to implement that 1 trillion naira within a year. Then why Solid Minerals? Because we are thinking about in a capitalist nation, you'll be thinking about getting the qualified private sector to get into these things, who know these things, and then let them give you the benefits of the resources, and you would have a strong regulatory agency in it. Tell me all the natural resources we are having, where the government has been in charge, where it has taken us to. Look at what is happening in oil business. Even when we now have private refineries, you cannot even support these private refineries to give you the dividends of oil. The greatest destroyer of our foreign exchange is imported refined oil. If you can tame that, Naira will start appreciating.
Don't you think that is beginning to happen?
No, it is not beginning to happen. Why do you have those installed capacity and you are still allowing a governmental agency to be important? Why? You know, in a corrupt society like ours, you do not commercialize a public business enterprise without, first of all, privatizing it. Because people will use it as a cash cow for themselves and their families. And the reason is because there is no consequence when they run it down. If they are bankrupt, it is the nation that is bankrupt, not them. But if it is private enterprise, there is consequence for you to be bankrupt. Whenever you're not able to pay your creditors, there is consequence.
Yeah.
But when you are under government, there is no consequence for you.
So what you are saying basically is that, NNPC should be privatized fully.
They should sell off the refineries as of yesterday. When this government came in, I said, look, removing fuel subsidy is a good idea. I've always supported it. But please, saturate the system with supply and ensure there is no monopoly. As an economist, I said it from the one. I say, if you do this thing, the price will start coming down. And look at it, as we are increasingly moving towards breaking monopoly, and as we are increasingly, moving towards saturating the system with supply, the price will start coming. This is pure economics. Look, I am an economist.
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about.
So Ken,
Yes.
do you see any, just for balancing, and I'm just asking for that.
Yeah.
So do you give them any credit for that, the fact that the price of oil is beginning to come down?
What do you give credit for? What you're having now is not that the price is coming down, it's that the price is volatile. Comes down today, goes up tomorrow. Now, why would I give credit to a man who would run aground the country and any little improvement will serve as if he is making improvement? I'll give you an example of what I mean.
Okay.
This government met of Naira officially at 420 Naira to $1. Then it went so bad to almost 2,000 Naira to $1. Then you want me to give them credit
To bring it back.
that they are 1,005. Then they are using our brain until the Naira becomes less than what they met it. I will give them credit.
Okay.
Because the natural question, when you want to rate any government, are you better off today
Than you were
when they came in? The answer is no.
Now, okay, so let's dimension, because you've said a lot of things. Let's try to find a way to dimension it. Do you think that the president still has, because their argument is that things are beginning to get better, not that we are there. They point to the fact that now you have, the price of oil is coming down. You've responded to that. Do you think that the president and his team still has some time to sort out this matter, or has it become for you, look, we already know where this is going?
I already know where it is going. Because what brought the price of fuel to 900 is not removal of oil subsidy. It is the incompetent manner of handling the Naira. Immediately they removed oil subsidy, they devalued Naira by about 300%. And that is what, we are still in that 300%, because it's about 1,500 official. In the black market, or I don't like using the word black,
It's a difference
in the
of
main street.
50 Naira.
Good. So,
which is one of the other things that we didn't have before, but at what cost? Because before we used to have a wide gap.
Good.
But that gap has been closed, except that,
Now, so 1,500 was what brought the cost of fuel to about 1,000 something.
Yeah.
Because we were importing every refined oil then. So the danger is when you are selling to the private refineries on still that high price, because I was telling them that when Dangote refinery comes on, comes on stream, we're not going to have it cheap, because they wouldn't be getting the crude cheaply, because the Naira has been devalued. So the issue here is that this government is not heading towards the right path. The right path it would have headed, like I told you.
Right.
NNPC, get off. Let's go to what we did in telecommunication.
Just
with this
private
terrible
thing.
situation in the country, the price of telecommunication is still very, very, manageable. And why? Competition. Why? There is supply. about 4 major players.
Are in place.
Major players. So they know the consequences of not competing very well. If you do that in the oil industry, we are going to gain so much because it's our product. They wouldn't have to be importing it. Now, it will stimulate the upstream to manufacture more oil.
Yeah.
And they will utilize and have more to export. And then we begin to be net exporters of refined oil. So you will be earning foreign exchange in the balance of the crude. You will be earning foreign exchange in the export of refined products. And Nigeria will be good for it. With NNPC still managing this, it will be a conundrum for the siphoning of money of Nigeria. How many billions of dollars have we invested to repair? I'm not saying build a new one. How many billions did Dangote invest to build a new one? One of the largest in the world. You can't compare it. Can you imagine if private entities had invested those money we invested in trying to repair those things? To build new refineries would have had at least 4 different brand.
Well, I mean, I cannot but agree with you about the corruption in the oil and gas, particularly in NNPC. And you were an APC member when
Very well.
you also served, and it's one of the things that I found very embarrassing. That in 8 years we couldn't
repair,
fix the refineries. Started getting to it, I think, about the 6th and 7th year.
And billions of dollars were being invested.
Well, certainly.
How do you explain it? Corruption.
Yeah. So in that area of corruption, and I have even on this show called out the president that look, you need to fix the corruption in the NNPC. But I think the idea of privatizing it in a very transparent, even if government is going to have a little bit of shares, it makes sense. I mean, for instance, on the pattern of NLLG,
absolutely. And even the joint venture, as in the crude oil, exploration, it's private business companies that do the exploration, and the government has the JV.
That is what we have now.
That's it.
But we still have a heavy involvement of NNPC, especially in the allocation of the crude. Now, so when it is privatized, government is still going to hold a
shares,
but what we are saying is entirely that we should put everything entirely in terms of the operations, operational control in the hand of private sector.
That like investments in it.
Yeah.
And they know the consequences.
Yeah, because I'm not even sure that we have the money to even invest in the upstream.
How do you have the money?
Yeah.
When you're borrowing about $10 billion to finance your budget.
Yeah.
Now, why I told you that this government is not going to head towards the right path anytime soon. When they were removing the oil subsidy, what did they tell us? That they want to have more money to provide the infrastructure for us. Now, which infrastructure are they providing? This government, with 15 trillion naira, they would have repaired all the existing roads and prevented our tankers falling like birds, exploding and killing a lot of people in oil. But yet, they want to commission one project, calling it a new road, without environmental impact assessment. They say they are rerouting down, meaning they did not plan it through when starting. And these questions were germane questions which we asked the people. Where was your environmental impact assessment? They said they did it. How did you go through the procedure of procurement? There are certain projects you enter into that. Look at the 5 trillion, like I told you, that came in. So why didn't you put that 1 trillion in the works, where our roads will be made? Because they are already looking for money. You're saying solid minerals.
Anyway, let's move along from the economy.
So we're not heading towards the right path.
Okay, point.
This government, if they want to head towards the right path, fine. Macroeconomic stability. In other words, naira. You know what an economist said? This government that is pretending that they are leaving naira for market forces, say they've spent $8 billion trying to sustain naira. Because what sustains your currency is industrial productive base and a steady export market. Nothing else can sustain.
But it takes time for that to happen, Ken.
Why take time? You have removed the whole oil subsidy. And you said you want to get more money to give us infrastructure. Do we have light? Do we have power? No. Do we have good roads? No. Do we have efficient government working? No. So what are we gaining from the subsidy?
Okay, so the president says that the state governors have more cash. Do you think that is something?
No.
They say they have more
For
cash.
any 1 naira you give the state governor before you came into office, the worth of it is now 30 kobo. Because the naira has depreciated for 300%. So when you say you're giving a governor 1 trillion naira, compare it to dollars. If he had 300 billion naira before,
Right.
it's equivalent to your 1 trillion naira. So that is why when they say they have given the governor this, I laugh.
But it's not every time that we have to bring in the foreign exchange component.
What are you manufacturing within?
There are things that we can do without, condition of life, for instance, you can make, considering the local economy,
Yes.
we don't have to convert everything to dollars. I agree that, there is a fact of that.
You know, part of the reason I say they are not heading towards the right path, they had the opportunity of buying 469 locally made Nigerian cars and jeeps for the members of
the National Assembly.
Why didn't they utilize that opportunity?
You're correct.
So even the government is not patronizing made in Nigeria goods.
That's a very important point. That's a very important point. But let us now move to the state government. How much responsibility do you ascribe to the governors regarding the state of the economy and agriculture? In their own states. How much responsibility do you think that the governors are getting away with blue murder at all, or you think it is we should still owe more and more and more to the federal government?
Do you know why I always, since I entered into politics, I have been praying and working hard for us to get a good president? Because I discovered that all the sub-regional governments take their coup and take their pattern of behavior from the federal government. What you're seeing that all the president, what you're seeing all the governors doing is a reflection of what the president is doing. He came in and wanted to buy Beast bulletproof for his car. He bought private jets, gold-plated entrance. That's the way all the governors are going to do their own. So if we can get the president right, one president, and the president will say, I'm going to use made in Nigeria cars for all my work. Watch it. All the governors will do so. Watch it if your president comes in and did not appoint ministers for 60 days. Watch and see how many states that will appoint commissioners within that 60 days. Then you will understand what I'm saying. That whatever you see those
president do,
it would dovetail to all the regional governments.
Very important point. This argument cannot be gainsaid at all.
Check all the cars that the governors are hiding.
But I still, I agree with you.
This,
but I think
this, and I don't even know why they like the names of all these, carnivorous animals, driving on. That's it. This, bulletproof, and that, and that. How many of them are patronizing made in Nigeria goods? Because that's our sure path to industrial growth.
Interesting. Let's move along, to the politics of 2027, which seems to be already apace. And I think reasonably, because the primaries are going to be sometimes next year. This is 2025. The primaries is going to be in 2026, probably by June. So we are talking about 12 plus 2 months, 14 months. We're going to be having the primaries.
Absolutely.
So it's pretty, the timing, in my view, is actually right. Do you think that, first of all, let me ask you, so where are you in terms of all this oppositional coming together? Because I see that you've left LP, you know, you've also, you're no longer following Mr. Peter Obi. The last time, you know, I read that you had a meeting with Mr. Atiku. Tell me, what's your whole game plan for 2027, Ken?
My whole...
And I ask this because I know you are a progressive.
Very correct. You know, my whole game plan is simple. If the opposition is serious in wresting power from this incompetent and corrupt government, they must all come together and act like one. Because that was what APC did in 2013. Yeah. And that was what helped them to wrest power. 2015.
Okay, this is
now,
where...
So where I am is, I believe in coalition. And when I was leaving where I left, I said, I am open to discussion with every group with a view to consolidating the opposition so that we can take out this government.
Okay, so you and I were in the arrangement of 2014.
No, I wasn't with you. In 2014, 2015. Okay. I was not part of the people that brought Buhari to power.
Okay, when you joined
2019.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. So some of us,
you know. I worked for Jonathan 2014, 2015. Okay. That was when I aspired to be a member of the House of Reps under PDP.
Okay, good point. Now, but a lot of us were part of that movement, and this country even had that kind of clamor, you know. And
sure.
For which the APC won and changed. Yeah. You know, my fear now is that, so it will seem, based on where we are today, that coalition was essentially just to get power.
Because I agree with you completely.
Because
where we are.
APC is now 8 years. My view is that look, the current president is the one that can sort it out. Hopefully, I am still open.
Yes, but you're still open.
I'm still open. But the problem that
you have to shield your heart.
Yeah, of course.
So in case,
I have a open mind, but of course I should. You know, I'm definitely not going to be beaten the way I was, because I really believe that this country was going to change. That was the reason why I joined.
True.
Now, so I am worried that I hope it is not what happened that is going to happen again, which is just people coming together to take power. I think that we need to have, and this is what I'm pushing for. I don't think I have a lot of time left pushing for it, because people are already talking about 2027. But I think that we needed to have a national consensus that is beyond parties, that has nothing to do with our ethnic differences, regional differences, religious differences, some kind of developmental bargain to say that, look, regardless of who gets power, this is the kind of minimum that we must have in Nigeria. We must have a serious confrontation of poverty. Whichever party, we must deal with, we must agree on that. Number two, we must have a situation where there is the enforcement of rule of law, regardless of whatever party, you know, we must fight poverty. And then we must fight corruption, regardless of party, ethnicity, you know. And I was pushing for that kind of national consensus, but in the quest for us to, you know, for people to knock out an incumbent, I'm afraid that this thing may be another repeat of what happened in 2015. Ken, tell me why you don't have that worry if you don't.
Right, let me see. Your fears are very, very germane. But, you know, let me start by saying that 2027 is one of the most complicated and complex time in the political history of Nigeria. Because we have this gentleman's agreement, 8 years in the South, 8 years in the North. Yeah. Now, 4-year term. Yeah. When an incumbent is not doing well, and in the midst of his tenure, it's a very difficult thing to, you know, to change or to project what will happen. Because would you say you want to get a fresh person from the South? The North will say, that means he will do another 8 years.
They'll be afraid.
They'll be scared.
Yeah.
And politicians are not very good in being trusted. Would you allow an incompetent government to continue just because you want to? Would you sacrifice the whole Nigeria just because you want to give an incumbent government to finish 8 years? Now, would you say let it go to North when it has just been 4 years in the South?
Right.
The South will say, you're shortchanging us.
Yes.
So it's a very complicated thing.
I agree.
The best thing, if politicians were to be trusted, is to have a free, fair primary where every qualified person, whether South or North, will partake in it. And whoever will come out will agree to do 4 years, whether from the South or from the North.
Well, if he's from the North, why does
If he does
4 years?
no, if he does 4 years, he would have now it would have been shared between North and South for 4 years.
4 years, and then
Then it returns back to the South.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be
Then
8 years.
yes. Then if the Southern person, if the fresh person
Right.
wins, he will do only 4 years to complete the Then it will go to the North where it will spend 8 years.
Yeah.
So if the North say no, we agree this government is not doing well. It's not yet our turn, but we can do 4 years. That's if the person emerges from the free fair
primaries.
Because if you begin to regiment it and say you won't do primary, then it will be a selective thing, not a democratic thing.
You have to do primaries.
Very good. And then you can't say you're restricting it now to one side because each side has, equitable interest.
That's the problem.
It's really very problematic. And that's why I said everybody should come together and let people talk. It's something that can be discussed over. And let there be agreement. Who is who here that will agree to do 4 years? It's going to influence who I'm going to support. Because I still believe in equity and justice.
I believe, alongside with you in 2023 that the president had the option of actually showing real leadership.
Absolutely.
By picking a Christian. And I'm sorry, we're going to mention names, Dogara,
A lot.
Yeah. He's just one of the many
and then,
clearly, advanced politicians that would have...
The first thing he said, which was an insult to Nathan Christians. No, you're talking about competence. When that one did not fly, he said it's a strategy to win.
Well, let's, because of our time.
Do you know, Northern Christians, this is one of the very, very few opportunities they have to ever be at the presidency. Why am I saying that? When it is the turn of the North, they will say, you have to use a Muslim. When it's the turn of the South, you say you have to use a Christian to balance things.
Yeah.
So it is when you have that upset of a Muslim coming from the South that you would have the opportunity to produce a Christian coming from the North.
Yeah.
It was a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Well,
unfortunately.
I'm sure that, all of those things are going to sort out, hopefully, in our future. I wanted to
No, sure. When we begin to have untribalized human beings.
Because we will stop talking,
Yes.
and it's good that people like you are also coming out very clearly, and you are taking taking the center, you are moving to the mainstream. These things are very important for
Look at the person I am looking for. You've even actually mentioned it. A man who understands that he should not be corrupt. An experienced man. A man who is not a tribal bigot or religious bigot. So if I have such a man who will respect our diversity, who is not corrupt, then who has experience, because Nigeria is a complex place.
It is.
You have to really have the experience of Nigeria, not of democracy. Then, I'm willing to go. I'm willing not to be so particular whether it is North or South, provided that justice is maintained. Then I am willing to take a look.
All right. Our time is fast spent. We will have to continue the conversation. But thank you so much for coming to Inside Sources, Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo, and thank you for your voice.
Thank you.
Thank you for chatting. A new future for our country. And I agree that people like you should get involved more and more in politics. I'm taking a seat back. I'm going to stay in journalism, so that I can also have a very dispassionate, non-partisan voice
to it. And you've been a very wonderful journalist. That has always been your base. And the value you brought in, when you came in and worked with His Excellency, Oshibanjo, your contributions are very immeasurable.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Kenneth. Thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you.
And thank you for your voice.
Thank you very much.